Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the cleverly named Thursday Night Bee Chat. Like I said in some of my comments, I put a lot of thought into that. So hope y'all appreciate it. It was easy to remember, though, wasn't it? Well, thank you so much for coming. This is really great. Now, I'm sure I'm going to mash some wrong buttons tonight and do all kinds of crazy stuff. But bear with me, and we'll make it. I've never hosted a chat before, been on several, but this is the first time hosting. And for y'all that have hosted, I've just got a single monitor here. So it's that's going to be a bit of a chore. So hopefully I'm on now. Somebody let me know in the comments if you can see me. I think I am. Okay, I got a thumbs up there. So we're live. Okay. Well, I'm sure I'll miss somebody, but being it's the first chat, I'm going to take time and try to thank everybody for coming. I mean, I see Randy and Dennis. There's Tom. Tom and Melissa. Don't know which one's here. Kevin, Michael. Let's see. DC. How you doing, DC? James. Parrot Farms. Jeremy. David. Kevin. I could really use some trail mix, Kevin. Carl. I might repeat some of y'all. There's Clay Bunner. How you doing, Clay? Shona, Mark Miller, Russell A. There's John. I think I've already said Dennis. Eric. Wow, thank you, Clay. I've never got a super chat before. You're my first. How cool is that? And somebody else gave me one up here. Who was that one? Kevin. Wow. Thank you, guys. That is so cool. Let's see, who else do we have in here? There's Mark Zinner. How you doing, Mark? Wow, it's amazing all of y'all showed up. This is pretty cool. Hey, Dodd. Tritone. 10X Shooters. Mary. There's Lee. Now, Lee, I called up Lee the other day, and he gave me a little crash course in StreamYard. So I appreciate his help. Crash might be the key word there for me, but we shall see. Hallelujah Bee Farm. Hey, Larry, Jan, Miss Leona. There's Roy. There's Redfish. Wow, the whole crew is here. Hope, Brad. There's Castle Hives. Hey, Brian. 33 Miles Bees. And the list just keeps going. There's Ricky. Pennsylvania Bees. This is pretty amazing. There's Dean. Now, if I missed anybody, I apologize. There's JW. How you doing, JW? There's your favorite squirrel. That's my youngest granddaughter. Bill Lee. Brian out of Colorado. This is taking a little bit of time, but I wanted to do it here on the first night. Michael, Randy Whitaker. Hey, Randy. He's a local fella. Jack Guthrie. Westcliff. Y'all are chatting faster than I get to the end of the line. Wolfpack. I believe that's about it. What's that one? Block Farm Apiary. Okay. Well, good deal. Like I said, I do appreciate y'all being here. It's a little nerve-wracking, not necessarily the talking, but just the technology, making sure you push the right buttons. But they made StreamYard fairly idiot-proof, so that works out well for me. But anyway, so what's going on in your neck of the woods? What I wanted to talk about tonight, one of our topics, of course, we'll talk about whatever comes up, but what it was how to stay ahead of the bees in the spring. Obviously, staying ahead of the bees, it depends on what part of the country you're in, what kind of bees you have, or what part of the world you're in even. Northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, things can change a lot. Some folks get in trouble sometime. They'll be watching a beekeeper that's in a way different part of the country or the world than what they are and think they need to be doing what that person's doing. And it's probably about as opposite as you can get of what you really ought to be doing. But I put out a video early this morning, if anybody saw that, kind of showing what we're up to here. You know, I'm kind of known for doing things a bit earlier than some folks. But yeah, I put my supers on yesterday. What was that? March the 4th. But the ladies are wide open. They've brooded up tremendously in the past couple of weeks. The temperatures are in the 70s and 80s for the next foreseeable few days. The temperatures even at night are in the 50s and 60s. Maples are bloomed. The fields are full of purple henbit dead nettle. Ladies are bringing in gobs of pollen. So around here we have that early flow before the tulip poplars kick in, and I believe she's going on right now. So I went through all my hives yesterday. I think I'm down to I lost 2 during the winter, and one got so small I combined it. So I went from 26 down to 23. But I went through all 23 yesterday, and that includes what, three or four nukes. But anyhow, I ended up putting supers, I think, on 19 hives. I reversed the boxes on all of them but one. You know, I run all mediums, which is another kind of an oddity that I do. But if you run all mediums, I use 3 mediums for my brood box. When you do that, usually the bottom brood box, the bottom medium is plumb empty come spring. So I always like to put that one on top. That gives the queen plenty of room if she wants to expand, whatever she wants to do. And right now she's expanding big time. So we shall see. A lot of drone brood, but didn't see any drones at all. So obviously it's not time to split yet. Not around here anyway. I know they're splitting in some parts of the country, but the things are rolling. Yeah, I really got no complaints. I went down to help one of the fellas that I help with their hives. He's got 6, probably 15 miles from here, where the crow flies. All of his hives were doing gangbuster, just like mine. So we supered up 5 of the 6 of his. One of them was a little bit behind, but things are going really good around here. I got no complaints. So what's going on down here in the chat? Granddaughter giving me lots of hearts. Hopefully somebody will pop in here. I'm going to have a hard time talking to myself for till 10 o'clock or so. I was hoping we might have a few visitors. I've got the link pinned there at the top. It's kind of funny when you switch over to from StreamYard over to YouTube. There's about a 30-second delay. Okay, they're telling me to post the join link. That's not what I posted. That's not what I've got pinned up here. It's the wrong link. I told you I'd push the wrong button. Tom, where do I find that link at? Look at the bottom of StreamYard, click invite, copy that link. Okay, let me do that. Okay, let's see if that one works. I posted the wrong link. I posted the go-to link instead of the invite link. Duh. There we go. Hey.
You got the right one now.
Thank you. Thank you. I need to get another monitor so I can have two screens up. It's kind of hard popping back and forth between on the laptop. Yeah, I posted the go-to link instead of the invite link. Oops.
Yeah.
Duh. Oh well. So how you doing, Tom?
Hey, you know what? Life's good. I can't complain. Probably wouldn't do any good if I did anyway.
Are y'all warming up a little bit out there?
We are actually. It isn't a temperature thing right now as far as being too cold, coming kind of rounding that corner, coming out of winter basically. But what it is for us since last Sunday, we've actually had a lot of rain basically. So
you got it to work.
Yes, thank you.
Are you staying in one of the Hilton, what do they call them, True hotels or whatever?
No, I'm in my Holiday Inn, one of the versions of them that they have everywhere.
Oh, I only asked because over your left shoulder there's a blue color, and that's the color that they're using in I think it's the Hilton brand. They call them True, TRU, or something like that.
Oh yeah. No, I stayed in so many hotels last year that I get automatically bumped up to suites and stuff because I'm platinum or whatever now. So
oh hey,
I've got like a half kitchen and chairs and couches, and there's a big echo in here because it's so big and empty.
Well, cool. Since you got that kitchen, I'm hungry.
Made myself a little drink thing here and slammed down my Jimmy John's faster than I've ever eaten one in my life, and so now I'm here, out in the middle of nowhere, Indiana, Terre Haute.
Wow. Man, you travel a lot of days of the year, don't you?
Last year I did. I think I spent almost 70 nights in a hotel last year.
Wow.
I'm trying to cut it back this year and trying to get farther away and just take less trips, but driving's a lot longer. So I was going to get closer. So I'm going to Worcester. I was going to try to get closer, but somehow I went to lunch and ate a Speedy Gonzalez special, and 3 hours later I started getting back on the road again.
Uh-oh.
So now I'm on the west side of Indianapolis. I just got tired of driving.
Somebody tied you up today, huh?
It's like I didn't have anywhere. I don't have to be anywhere till 2 tomorrow, so I wasn't in any hurry. So they can make this bigger. I was afraid my Wi-Fi wouldn't work, and of course the Wi-Fi here stinks. So I've hotspotted in my phone, but it looks like it's going to work okay.
Yeah, you look and sound fine.
See if I can make my screen bigger so I can actually see you guys.
How many hours past St. Louis did you get? 3, 4?
What, 3-ish, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to get up in the morning. I've got about 5 hours left to go. So it's not too bad.
Should be easy.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'll have plenty. say I don't have to roll in until I can't sit up until 2, so I can actually sleep in a little bit and take my time rolling in and avoid some of the Indianapolis traffic in the morning, maybe. I'll just have to leave this small so I can see it. Yeah. So Keith, it sounds like in your area, you sound kind of like me. Like I'm like a month ahead right now.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. If you had asked me a month ago where we were at, I would have said we were behind. And man, all at once it warmed up, the snow melted, and things changed quick around here. I think last year I put my supers on probably a week later than what I did this year. So, I pretty much do it based on what I see the bees doing, what I see the flowers, the trees, what the weather looks like. If after these 80s we had to drop back in the 20s, obviously I wouldn't have done what I did yesterday. But you add all the pieces, parts together, and man, sometimes you just can't look at the calendar. You just got to go with what's in front of you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, so I've just been feeding mine along. So usually I normally don't actually like break boxes all the way apart until about April 1st, generally. But I've been feeding since, and I've got honey. I overwinter a medium and a deep. And the medium basically is packed full of honey, and there's extra honey in the sides of the deep, just a normal setup. And I always put like emergency feed on top just because I'm paranoid. Usually they don't eat it. I just end up taking it out in the spring and throwing it in the grass, or I'll make sugar syrup out of it or whatever. And they still have a good portion of a medium left generally. This year, after Christmas, we've been so warm, I checked them. All my emergency feed was gone. So I started put some Hive Alive fondant patty, bags on them, those 2.2 pound bags or whatever they are. And then I checked them like 3 weeks later, and they burnt through every single bit of it. So I was like, okay, I'll double it up. And that was before we got all the big snowstorm coming into our area, where we got like 8 inches of snow, which, that shut us down for like a solid week. We jumped right back into the 70s and 80s. So since Christmas, I've had to go through and put double bags of Hive Alive, plus more like turbo or whatever extra I had, like packed on the sides too. Every 3 weeks, they're completely burning through every single bit of it in every single hive. They're not really touching the honey. They're just going up and getting all the fondant. And then like in my nail hive that's insulated and it's a little bit warmer, the bees are so thick in it, I've actually been doing double. So I've been putting 2 bags down, 2 bags up, and bags on the sides, and they will go through that in 3 weeks.
Holy cow.
To where when I opened it up every day, that's why I had a little short where they built comb up to the top. I put all that in not even 2.5 weeks before that. And they wiped and cleaned everything out. They're building comb. They're putting nectar in it, and they actually started drying and capping some of it already.
Wow.
It's the weirdest thing. I thought maybe they got in somebody's feeder, so I tasted of it, and it actually tastes like honey. It's the right color. I've got 3 different kinds of pollen coming in right now, which usually we're barely getting like maples. We've had henbit blooms since like January. I need to cut my grass when I get back. We're so far ahead. It's all screwed up. I went through checking my bees, and my deeps on the bottom, all the hives, I had a minimum of like 6 frames worth of cat brood, like corner to corner already, which is like unheard of for the way I usually do them. Generally, that's that April time I have to worry about it. I had to go through and I put an empty box with 10 brand new medium frames on everything last weekend, just to give them something to do, because we've got all that rain coming in where they're all going to be trapped inside because they're thick. So, yeah. And with us, I don't know how you guys are, but like me, where I am in Arkansas, we're going to get a freeze or snow or something like some point later in March. So I'm not putting any syrup on them. I haven't given them any brood builder, nothing, just fondant, and I'm just kind of letting them roll and hoping I can kind of keep them maintained until like April comes around.
Yeah, that's a chance you take around here. We've had a lot of big snows in March, but last year I supered up early and the weather cooperated. It got cold a few nights, but never froze any blooms, and we just rolled right into spring without a hitch. So, but yeah, that's kind of a decision you got to make. if you don't do something when they're going crazy, you're going to pay the price later. You've kind of got to lead them. It's like trying to throw a football to somebody that's running, or if you go bird hunting or something. Once you get behind, it's over with. So I want to run through these super chats right quick and thank some folks. Clay, I really do appreciate it. Kevin, appreciate all that you've done for us. Those snacks that you gave us have come in really handy. Dwayne, really appreciate that, man. I've never got these before, so this is pretty cool. Feathers, hope everything's good up in Maine for you. And Mark, thanks for coming and appreciate the super chat. That's very cool.
Keith, I think you have a big fan in here.
Uh-oh. The favorite squirrel.
Yep.
Yeah, like I said, that's our youngest granddaughter. So, I thought she might pop in here. Yeah. So yeah, she's the head of my fan club.
It's always good to have somebody leading that up, right?
Yeah. Since Samson can't talk, that'll work. Now I've got Michelle. She's in the other room watching it on TV. She's supposed to run in here if I lock up, so I know something's going on. Okay, I see Eric there. Earning enough money to give the half track an oil change. It's actually about that time. I need to change the oil in the half track and the Jeep and the Fairlane. So yeah, April gets to be a busy month for the half track. I've got a few events, military show. We do an event at a local middle school where they have a World War II day.
That's cool.
A lot of reenactors show up. I take the half track. They break the classes into groups, and we get to give them our little spiel on what our piece of it is. I tell them all about the half track, what they were used for, and then they get to climb on board, touch a little bit of history. So it's kind of cool. I enjoy that. So
hey, can you run that half track down the asphalt pavement, or does it have rubber pads on it, or is it just a steel on?
Yeah, it's got rubber. All the half tracks had rubber tracks.
Okay.
Yeah, they're a lot like a skid steer. It's a one piece track, goes on in one piece. They don't have links in it or anything. So it goes on in one piece. Each side it weighs about 500 pounds. So it's a wrestling match to put a track on. But the only time they had metal, you could I forgot my word. You could bolt metal pieces onto the tracks for ice and snow, and they actually made a set of chains that would go all the way around the tracks, which I'm sure that was fun to put on. But yeah, it don't hurt the asphalt at all. So I don't have any trouble with the DOT.
What's the max speed on that thing?
The listed speed on the data plate is 40 miles an hour.
Okay.
So, but I'm sure she would run that fast if the hill was long enough. But she's happy about 25 is what I normally cruising speed. I might hit 30 going down a hill, but yeah, 20 to 30, somewhere in there.
I only asked that because tires do really well at fast speed. Tracks, even though they're rubber, they don't do well at fast speed. It's not the same.
Yeah, you'll hit a speed where it's kind of a resonant, and it'll start bouncing with you.
Yeah,
and you got to get on one side or the other. Yeah, you hit something just a perfect speed. But yeah, if you can see a hill, you're probably going to have to catch another gear. She don't have, but it's a little over 16,000 pounds, and she's got 147 horsepower. So she's not a hot rod by any means. But
now
I got lots of gears.
That's a 6-cylinder diesel, or what is that?
It's gas.
Oh, it's gas.
6-cylinder, yeah, 6-cylinder flathead.
Okay.
So yeah, back in the beginning of World War II, pretty much everything was gas, tanks, everything. The
Okay.
diesels came on a little bit later.
Okay.
It just made it a lot easier just having to keep up with the one type of fuel for everything.
Yeah.
Obviously, gas was a lot more volatile. They found some downsides to it.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
We're not doing that.
But it does pretty good. Now the Israelis, I know this is a B chat, but I can talk about half tracks all day too. The Israelis used half tracks on up into the 90s. We sold them a bunch of them, and they pulled the gas engines out and put Perkins diesels in them, and then they put they put missile launchers and all kinds of stuff in the back of half tracks, and you can still get a lot of parts out of Israel up to a point, but all that's gone now.
So where were those originally built at? Were they built overseas or some of them built here?
They were built here.
Okay.
The ones like I have, 3 different companies made pretty much the same half track. Mine's a white, like white transfer tractor trailer trucks. That the White company, White, Auto Car, and Diamond T were the 3 companies that made them just like mine. International Harvester made them, but they were a little bit different. And a lot of those actually went to Russia, because the Russians, they were our friends back in World War II. So, but the International Harvesters, they were quite a bit different than what I've got. But yeah, she's a white.
Well, that makes sense that they built them here. I never really much understood when a country only has, especially for certain key things, like medications and things like that, why you would source those things overseas entirely. It seems like a security risk. I feel like back in the day we had things more under control when that comes to that stuff, but for whatever reason we kind of moved away from manufacturing a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, it's hard to compare today with what was going on back at that time, how much industrial power we actually had building. If you look at the number of ships that were getting built, the vehicles, it's just crazy, totally crazy what we were able to accomplish.
Yeah, so. I agree, definitely.
So what's going on in your neck of the woods, Tom?
So right now, just a lot of rain, really. I haven't gotten into my bees since maybe sometime, I don't know if it was last week. If it was last week, it was early, because we had a little bit of cold snap, and then it got warm, and things have been pretty dry. And then as of last week on roughly Sunday, things started to get wet, and they've kind of just stayed that way. I mean, quite a bit of rain in my area, a few inches. You go just barely south of me by maybe 50, 60 miles or so, and we've had somewhere about 5 or 6 inches of rain.
Wow.
But they're kind of busting up a little bit of, we're still kind of in a little bit of a drought as far as, that moisture buildup in the soil. So I guess if we're going to have a bunch of rain, I'd rather it be really early in the season. And so by the time things start to bloom a little bit, I don't want to dry out, but, dry out enough that they can have plenty of fly days. We experienced last year what I would call a green dearth, where we had stuff blooming, but it kept raining, so if it keeps raining, they can't bring it in. And kind of that's 22.
Yep.
So looking for that sweet spot, really. I don't know if we ever really fully grab a hold of it, because we have to contend with, potential late snow showers or ice events, basically leading through most of March. But then we also have to worry about having either sometimes too dry or sometimes way too wet. For us, typically in the spring, we can have multiple days worth of rain or rainy weather, which keeps the bees from flying. So I always view it as, if they're not putting stuff in the cupboard, they're taking it out. So we're going backwards,
Yep.
That's really the one reason why I tend to use, not a lot, but I use pollen patties here in my area. We typically have a really good pollen flow. I mean, pretty much by and large throughout most of spring till you get to that real hard dearth. But my goal is, when I start to see some of that natural pollen start to income, and I know there's going to be a period of, say, 2-3+ days of rain or no fly weather because of a cold snap or something, I'll usually put a smaller piece of a pollen patty on there just to help kind of bridge the gaps, hoping that maybe if the queen starts laying and she gets a full week where there's no incoming pollen, she may shut down. I'm trying to just bridge those gaps with that. So, my goal is that of producing as many bees as I possibly can early in the season to build and sell nucleus colonies. And the last thing I want is once temperatures get somewhat reasonable and regulate to some degree, I really don't want her to stop laying, because my goal would be to build, if I was in honey production, I would probably want to, curb that a little bit. But, being that we need to build as many bees as possible, it's okay for what my uses are. So that's kind of how I've always approached it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I kind of did the same thing when I went in them checking for brood probably a week ago. Well, no, it was the first time I went in. Anyway, a week or two ago, I added some pollen patties to all mine. And I added a full patty, tore into pieces. When I went back into them yesterday, all that was gone, except for a couple of hives had a few small pieces. But when I rotated the boxes yesterday, I went ahead and added a little bit more pollen patty, and what fondant I had left over on some of the hives, I tore that up into some pieces and just stuck that in there. We do have some rainy days coming up. They're not supposed to be washouts, just 1/10 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch all day, so the bees will still be flying because it's close to 80. But like you say, it's just something just to hold them if they need it. And with them brooding up, I think it's good. I think it helps. Now, one thing that told me it was time to put my supers on, I've been doing some open feeding, and the bees quit coming to the syrup. That's one thing that I do pretty regularly is put sugar syrup out on our deck. I just got a few plates with some marbles and rocks in them, and I'll mix up a little syrup around lunchtime every day. And that's a good barometer of what's going on. Are the bees flying? Is there a flow? Blah, blah, blah. And man, it was almost like you flipped a switch, which that's the way it happens a lot of times. One day the plates are covered up, and the next day just a handful show up. So something happened. That they found a better meal somewhere else. So it was the same way where I was open feeding up between my two bee yards. I had several gallons out, and they just quit coming. It's just sitting there. So a handful of bees on it, but nothing like it had been being. So yeah, that's a good indicator if you want to tell what's going on in your area. Just put out a little sugar syrup every day. You can tell when it changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Usually for me, it's when I start moving stuff around and I get some honey or something on the back of my truck, and the bees completely just disregard it. They won't even pay an ounce of attention to it. But
Yeah.
when things like completely stop flowing and you get like one drop in one area on something and they're just like attacking it, you're like,
Oh yeah.
there's something.
Yeah, spring is funny. You can open up hives and nobody really cares. But yeah, you do exactly the same thing in August and you get in trouble.
Yeah. Those are all those little things you tend to kind of learn as you kind of grow, or as you have some experience under you. You start to understand these little things that you may not have thought about before, but the bees still teach you that lesson, like careful having, some supers of honey or whatever sitting in your garage and the garage door up, because as soon as the bees, one or two find it, next thing you know, they tell all their friends, and one or two turns into 500 to 2,000, however many bees, trying to get in your garage, and then you're constantly trying to keep them out, so keeping everything under lock and key basically, or keep things cleaned up. Well, I'll say that.
Yeah.
I happened to be in the garage here just a little bit earlier tonight after I got back from meeting up with Michael here earlier today. And I had some that I got 2 years ago, some acorn drone comb frames. So they had a good coating of wax on them, but it was a little bit older. And it was still tacky and had a good smell to it. But I'm like, I'm just going to go ahead and re-wax these, which I don't typically re-wax most frames. I just get rid of them and buy new waxed ones. But these, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and re-wax these. I just got a whole load of them from Michael here, I don't know, a few weeks ago. And so anyway, that was my goal, trying to get everything prepped and finish up the small last details that I need to for this year. And I thought, I need to get those frames in a colony. And So we're going to do at least one drone comb frame in each colony, and some of them that we don't want to. If a colony that we don't necessarily want for a mating purpose, we might pull those and freeze them and use them as my control. But the other ones we'll let them ride. And actually, the ones that we really like will probably get a second frame inside of them amongst 3 different yards that we use for mating areas.
You froze up. We got the last little bit of that.
Am I still froze up right now? Can you hear me?
No, you're good. You just froze up for most of everything you were just talking about.
Oh, so yeah, I was wax coating some older Acorn frames that I had, or recoating them rather, because I've had them now for maybe a couple of years. So my goal was to get all those into colonies here as things start to progress, and probably more like after I start to make splits at the very first part of April. So that was my afternoon for an hour or so. I think I had 50 frames, and then I had picked up a bunch of them from Michael, and so we'll be putting a bunch of those in a lot of colonies that we like. So,
man, you'd be surprised how attracted they are to wax smells.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we're spraying frames, you talk about bees in the building.
Yeah.
I mean, the last month they've just been coming in, dive bombing into the sprayers and getting hit and into the tanks. And because a friend of ours, it's the property, not next door, but one building over, he had a bunch of his hives out of his place, and they were just coming in. As soon as it was warm enough to fly, if they could smell wax, they were in the building. Mm-hmm. And he actually just hauled them off to his dad's place probably a couple of weeks ago. And we just kind of realized yesterday that we haven't seen any in a few days. So, I mean, I know I can't take bees down to work like I wanted to again, because they'll be shortcutting all through the building and be in the sewing rooms and in the machines, and it'll be a nightmare. So you got to keep everything away. But just getting that smell in the air, they were, I don't know, 3-4 acres away from us easily, and just picking up that little bit of smell in the air and the wind, they would just start piling in as soon as they could smell it.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Whenever I'm waxing frames in the shop, I usually have to pull the doors down, or I'll have lots of visitors. Mm-hmm. That kind of makes me wonder sometimes if adding wax to frames, a lot of us do that, and it really seems to help the bees draw the frames out quicker. But sometimes I wonder if it's just the smell of that new wax on those frames really attracts the bees to the frames, maybe more so than just having more wax. That's one thing I try not to wax my frames way ahead of time. I try to wax them up right before I use them. And like you say, man, just a little bit of smell in there and they all come visiting. So
it was an overcast day for us for the most part. Now, it wasn't raining when I was doing it, and I did have the garage door up, and I did have a few bees fly in there kind of sniffing around just a little bit. Now, had it been a day when there was really good flight, I probably would have had several in there on that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I noticed at work. So spraying and storing between work and the house, spraying and storing stuff when it's cool, it seems to be okay. Like, stuff I sprayed months ago, I can open it up and it still has a good smell and a good tack to it. Stuff I did. So the way we're doing ours, we only spray like a pallet or 2 at most ahead. So it's pretty fresh. But in the fall, we can spray it because the whole building's cool and you can store it. Mm. So I stored some boxes of them that were sprayed in my metal storage shed last year, full sun out in my backyard for about 5 months. Mm. And they were still really good and tacky, but you could tell where just that, bacon in that oven, basically, they lost some of that good smell to them. Mm-hmm. They still took them, but they didn't take them as fast as something that, if you would have kept them in the garage out of the sun, where they're not baking as hard, or if you wax them in the fall and store them through the wintertime, I think it makes a difference.
Yeah, I believe it does. I believe it is. I mean, I have absolutely zero science to prove that. But
I used to take my when I would clean my old frames at home and I would store wax and I re-wax frames, I would take a little bit, and I say a little bit, say a crock pot's worth of wax. I would take a couple drops of like lemongrass oil or spearmint oil and drop into my wax and kind of stir it through to give it some other smells, just because I knew the natural smell of it was going to wear off because I was doing it in the wrong time of year and just so far ahead. Mm-hmm. That seemed to give them something, that just get their attention more than anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Trying to look at the comments and see see what's going on over here. I know from being being in the comments more than I'm been the chats. There's a lot of good conversations going in the comments.
Hey, we're getting to that time of year where, you notice where, if people are using any kind of like plastic foundations in their wood frames or anything with a plastic to it, if they put too many in at the wrong time, the bees will go down to the bottom of those frames and steal wax off and take it up and work on it. So you always get those, like that bottom section that's not built. I've seen a lot of new people putting stuff in and talking about how, they didn't draw it out again. They didn't draw it out again. You got to remind people, once they take that wax off, they're probably not going to build in that plastic. So if you've got frames that have that lower section that's empty, mail you some and rub on there now while it's early and get them back in there, and they'll probably draw them back out and fill them out for you.
Yep.
I did that with some of mine last year. I got too far ahead and things just dried up too fast. As efficient as bees are, I mean, they go down and steal it where they can steal it and move it where they want it. And you end up getting those little corners in that bottom ridge that's just bare all the way across the board.
Right. Now, how many hives are you running right now?
I was talking to Tom about that today. You know how that goes. I think I overwintered 12. I got up to 20 last year. And going into fall, since I'm picking for genetics, I always take a handful of the weakers and pick them out and combine some stuff. So I didn't have everything made it through the winter just fine. So I think I have 12 back there. And then I'm going to run 2 defender hives. So I'll have 8 queen mating chambers. And I'm going to run 4 of the Apiary, the 7 framers that you can split in the center and basically make them into 2 mating or 2 nukes. So I'm going to use my 2 defenders to have 8 queen mating chambers. And when they get mated, I can slide them over and put them in those 4 7-frame Apiaries and basically make 8 3-frame nukes. So I'm going to slide those 8 into those and raise them to 3-framers and cycle those out into bigger hives. So I'm going to try to actually make myself take some time off work, like every now and then, and try to start cranking queens out this year and play around with it. I used to do that, and I could do it just fine. It's just, it can get time consuming, keeping up with all your dates and when things are hatching, and because I hate the graft, so I'm basically going to make them raise cells and cut them out. So it no little extra work. But I wouldn't mind. Now I can't take any of the work because I have to worry about them coming to the building. I have out yards I can use. It's just I got spoiled having everything at home last year, where you just walk over to the shed and pull boxes out. I think I could cram 30 in my garden in the backyard. I think my area could support it just fine. If I move the way some things are laid out to make sense, I think I can put 30 back there and manage it space-wise. So I might try to bump up to 30 and just see what everything looks like at the end of the year. And if I overwinter 20, 25, I mean, that'd be fine with me.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm kind of shooting for. Of course, everything came in early, so I pulled all my equipment out. Everything I remember that I had, all the counts were off. I don't have as many lids as I thought, not as many of this as I thought. So I've still got some odds and ends to buy because I don't have time to build that stuff like I used to. So
Oh, yeah.
I thought I had a lot of stuff. Then I put a medium on everything. And then I started counting bottoms and tops and realized nothing matched. And I got some long hives from Tom, so I'm going to play some long hive stuff. And now I've got to figure out where I'm actually going to put them in the yard. And because those were the 2 that were going to go down to work, because I wouldn't have to worry about hauling frames down and equipment. They just would be there. And that plan got blown up. So,
yeah.
Yeah,
I agree with you on the numbers. That's that's one thing beekeepers need to keep in mind. You got all the commercials and the sideliners and the hobbyists, and they got names for everything. But to me, I want to keep beekeeping fun. I'm an old retired guy. It's a good little side gig doing the farmers markets and making a little pocket change. But I think I hit 37 hives last year at my peak. And for me, that was too many. I didn't, I mean, I could do the work, but I didn't want to do the work.
Turn into a job instead of being enjoyable.
I didn't need to do the work. So the 20s are a good place for me. Right now at 23, 25, 27. But man, when it crossed 30, it seemed like it changed quite a bit. That was, yeah. They're not saying I won't go there again. I mean, with splits and swarms, it is what it is. I'm not gonna turn away a swarm, but I think I've got enough wood to probably go back up to 32 or 33. So, but yeah, I want to keep it fun. That to me, that's a big part of why I do it. I enjoy it. So,
well, I don't know about you, Keith. I try to keep my equipment down. So for every hive, brood chambers, whatever your setup is, I try not to keep more than 3 medium supers for each hive. So I'll put on 2, let them get filled. When I pull those 2, I'll put the 1 extra on while I have time to extract and play around with them. Then if that one gets filled, I'll pull and put 2 on. So I try to only keep 3. And even doing that, as soon as you start splitting a little bit, you're like instantly out of stuff again. I mean, it just goes so quick. So then you're out there like you're extracting and trying to slam them right back on immediately, trying to get it done because you don't have anything else to put on them.
Oh, it's amazing if you start. I didn't have as bad a time last year. I think it was year before last that I had so much trouble with swarms. And I couldn't believe how much equipment I burned through. I made so many trips up to Miller Bee Supply and would buy more than I needed and say, oh, this will be all I need. And then I'd have to go back again. So, that burns the old pocketbook a bit. So, how you doing, Charlie?
Hey, good.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I thought I'd come in and help you out on your maiden voyage.
Yeah, you've been here, so it really helped once I got the right link pinned. It made it a whole lot easier for folks to find me.
Yeah, it takes what would you say? It's like knowing, like when you're turning the stream on and off and hitting the right button, and I'm like, thought I hit the wrong button and killed everything and all that stuff and all that. But yeah, after a while you kind of get really used to it and everything's cool.
Oh yeah. So how's it going up your way? Are you coming out of spring or coming out of winter?
Well, it's been foggy and rainy and misty for like the last 3 or 4 days. And it finally today, this afternoon, the sun finally sort of came out and the fog lifted and the moisture in the air got away. And all that. I was able to get some lumber planed that we were trying to do. I've been stacking lumber in the, not so much in the rain, but even everything's just misty and all that. So, and then they 7-day forecast. It was supposed to be wonderful and bright and sunny and 70 degrees. And now it's down to pretty much showers or rain every day and maybe a high of 60 some, something like that. And, and hey, Mr. John, I'll just say instead of me trying to type. So I don't know. I got one guy text me today about putting some sugar water on. I said, yeah, as soon as I think it's supposed to be 70 degrees Tuesday or Monday or Tuesday. So I'm thinking about, this weekend won't be too bad. I know I want to put a couple quarts on and maybe I'll mix it up tomorrow and let it, cook it. So I got to let it cool down overnight. So maybe I can get it on tomorrow afternoon. And, they were light on food. I've been hitting them with fondant, some Hive Alive, some super microbial fondant and all that. And they've been taking it down. Plus, Matt's Magic fondant, a lot of that. And also kind of wanting to switch over to some liquid feed or just to get enough to, get them started and stuff.
Yep.
Who's the squirrel?
That's my granddaughter.
Okay.
Here's the squirrel.
Yeah.
It says fan club.
Yeah. She asked the question a while ago, do the bees feel the time change this weekend?
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Y'all don't forget time changes Sunday morning.
They may not feel it, but we will.
Yeah. The bees won't feel a thing. You can tell some folks, though, the time change, you'll give the bees an hour more to work every day, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens. Like up there where Brad is, up there at Faith Apiaries in Manitoba, they have a compressed honey season, but their bees get to work something like 14 hours a day or something because of the the sunlight is way different.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Sandy. Sandy. Hey, Matt.
I call Alicia Sandy all the time. It's just like, and she answers. So
She has a T-shirt. What was it? Something on there? She says, "I'm Sandy" or something like that.
yeah, I don't remember now. I think she'd have some T-shirt made up. But yeah.
Now, one public service announcement here. I'm running the free version of StreamYard, so I guess that limits me to 4 people on stage, right?
Should be 6.
Six. Okay. But it is limited. So,
Hey, Keith, all of us don't have Sawmill Charlie money down here, so we got to work off our budgets. Which, ironically, I think that Charlie has a big announcement to make, don't you?
Yes, sir. I'm the newest affiliate for Hive Alive.
okay.
So if anybody wants to buy Hive Alive products, just put in there Sawmill 10, and you'll get 10% off of all your products and stuff.
Good deal.
What code can we use for 90 to 100% off?
I don't know about that. I don't even get that. And then, of course, play the game right. If you're buying something from those folks, make sure that you buy enough of what you need at $170 or more, and you get free shipping.
That's the ticket.
That's the ticket. That's where you're going to even save even more.
Yeah.
Legend 10. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Castle Hives comment, Legend 10.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a big difference. You get free shipping and 10% off. I hadn't done the math lately, but I think it gets the patties down to $6 or $7 a piece, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
shipping is just, I sent Todd a 1 pound bottle of honey through UPS, or not UPS, but the postal service. It was as much as the darn bottle was worth. It was like something like $15 or $18 to ship it out there.
Okay.
I don't know whether that's because it was a tariff across the border out there and over in California or what.
yeah.
Well, it would seem like the big tariffs going into California, but it's still part of the U.S.
But
it's the minimum charges and delivery charges, and they just rack you up for every little nitpicky thing they can tack on there. We deal with it every day, all day long. It's ridiculous.
I wonder if it'd be cheaper trying to go through pirate ship on that, even though it's a small item. You have any experience with that, Michael?
No, for our stuff, no. We get such large discounts because you do so much volume.
Yeah.
Pretty much the price I get on our stuff's about the best I can find anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's
because you're doing
still
volume ship.
ridiculous. I mean,
Have you used that pirate ship much, Tom?
So we actually haven't. Did you ever ship anything through pirate ship?
No.
Yeah, we really don't ship a lot, honestly.
That's why.
If we're shipping something, it's usually because I'm giving something away or whatever. It's not usually because I'm doing it to make money or anything. So,
Mr. John, he uses pirate
Yeah,
ship.
John said he uses it.
yeah. John, what's your experience like with pirate ship? Is it beneficial for you? And the reason I'm saying, the pirate ship is I've heard many people tell me that.
Joe said he uses it.
Yep. Grammy too.
Different ones that talked about it recently, but now they say that their rates have really went up. So I don't know.
Several folks.
Supply and demand, I guess.
like
John says it's cheap.
You see, we have to have ours, tied through the website. And our website's a custom build that has to understand how to master pack everything we have. So it has to be able to do all that, get shipping within like a buck or two, I mean, it's not perfect, but ours is really close to where if we undercharge somebody a few dollars, we just eat it. It's not worth the trouble. But it auto kicks out tracking, does everything auto. So we're kind of like full blown setup through our main accounts. So to change anything, it's a nightmare. So.
Well, that's how people can get shipping rates when they put in their order, right? Because it's auto kind of figured.
Our system, like for the bee stuff, it knows how to take multiple boxes and what can fit in masters and do all the. We've got plugins that run through FedEx that figure out all the little weird residential and rule and all the other BS they do to you. Until they do an update, every time they update, it screws stuff up and you go in and fix it, and then it's good for about 2 weeks, and you got to do that all year long. It's a pain.
Yeah. Let's see. I saw the email came out for the videos from the expo. Did y'all clicked on that and got that rolling yet?
I've never actually gotten one video from him because the Bee Expo. We never bothered to sign up for him on any one of them ever.
We just got the email the other day. I haven't.
We got the email.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I got the email, and last year I signed up for him, but I don't think I watched, but maybe one or two of them, and that was about it.
Yeah, I went ahead and set mine up. It was pretty easy. They got a code that goes in and it works. So they're all there.
Midwest put out their code for their videos too. Anybody on here who went there, check your email.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I saw
All the
that.
attendees get it. I don't know how the vendors are working. I gotta ask Bill if we get it included too, or if we're going to have to pay like a discounted price if we want to see the videos from Midwest. Or because it's talking about, you get it with your tickets up there, but vendors don't have tickets, so there's no ticket code that we can type in to access stuff. So got to ask, because there's a lot of good talks up there. I wouldn't mind listening to some of them since I couldn't go to any of them.
So we didn't actually buy a ticket either, since we were one of the workshop speakers or whatever. But Melissa said they sent us something too, right?
I thought.
Unless it was just a blanket.
I got the blanket email about it.
Oh, okay. Well, we didn't try to go on and secure anything. So
yeah, you go in, and then like once the code off your email you got with your tickets. So I have that code because I don't have tickets.
I would only imagine, and I don't know this for a fact, but I would think that Bill or Doug would probably send you a code to access them if you really wanted to,
Yeah, see, I didn't know how that would work. If it's tied into somebody else's system with the ticketing, they may not be able to generate a code.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
But I don't know. I'll have to ask them.
I wouldn't mind listening to the panel discussion with Lamas and all. That would have been pretty interesting.
Yeah, I was looking forward to seeing my intro that I did for Fred Dunn, and they cut me off. All that fuss that came in about that. My 10 seconds of fame deleted.
Doggone it.
But yeah, I wanted to catch a few of the things that I missed. It's always more fun at the expo to hang out on the vendor floor. It is for us anyway. But there was a couple of them I want to see.
I stopped in a couple of the talks, but honestly, I mean, a lot of it's, if you've seen it on YouTube, you already seen it. That's kind of the downside of YouTube, I guess. And you kind of know, you already kind of
Don, if I remember reading the email right, you've got to you have to email them through a link and tell them something, and they send you something back. I don't think they just emailed you a straight code. You have to go through and do something. That's why you haven't gotten a code yet. I don't remember what the email from them said, but there was like a couple steps to it you had to do.
No, I just got an email. I didn't do anything.
So you didn't have to go get a code or put your name on the form or something?
No, the email just popped up and had the code in the email and had instructions on how to put it in at checkout. Because if you don't have the code, the videos are $75. So what the code does is give you a $75 credit. So your payment is $0.
They may change. I thought I was watching the live where they were talking about how they were coming out. They had something funny, so maybe they went in and changed it where you don't have to do that now. That or I watch something about another stream or conference and twist them all together.
You watch enough YouTube, you can
Yeah.
do that.
Somebody had to fill out a form. They had somebody watching it, so who knows? Who knows where I saw that?
Okay. But David said maybe they do emails in batches. That could be true. It might take a few days to get all the batches out. So I wouldn't.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
last
care.
Friday is why Cayman was on there. He's talking about that, coming out.
Yep. Yep.
So I hear, what is it, Michael? It's like 80 degrees out there where you're living.
Oh yeah, we're. Let's see. The night. Let's see. I left just get my days confused. So last night, storms came in. We're supposed to
Yes.
get storms and tornadoes and all that the next 4 or 5 days. But up until then, we've been highs of upper 70s, low 80s. We've had lows in like the 50s and 60s for ever in the oddball day for weeks now.
Mm.
I mean, bees are going through food. I mean, they're flying. Tons of stuff's coming in. They're actually starting to cap new liquid coming in. It's
There was hey, and this, Brian, you might know about this, Flower Street, Rocky Mountain Bee Supply. It was on the news and on a Facebook, or maybe it was YouTube, where the guy was saying, yeah, people's bees are dying because they're starving, and it was too much warm weather this summer or winter. I mean, I don't know whether or not Brian knew who that was or not. But I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, it's the same old story year after year.
Well, I mean, I'm up here in Indiana right now, and when I came to my hotel room a while ago, and it's already in the evening, it's already dark outside. The truck said it was like 69 up here already. Still, they got up into the mid 70s today. This far up north.
Yeah, see, he knew him. I figured he knew him.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I
I
mean,
know. I think Brian was talking about that back a while back. It was warm, where we were ice cold over here on the East Coast, and all that. But I guess like the news media's got to have something to talk about.
They sure do.
Have you, Keith? Have you seen that young fella down there around North Carolina that you helped out some?
Yeah, I was actually going to talk about that right before we signed off, but I'll go ahead and talk about it a little bit now. That was his name is Jace.
Yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we kind of lost contact with him for a while, and then he popped back up and started replying to some of my YouTube videos. But he got with me this week and said his mom was doing real bad. She had cancer, and he was asking for thoughts and prayers. I told him I would pass it along. But yeah, he's a good kid. Me and Ricky took some bees down to him, and I went again and took him a super full of honey. And his bees made it through the winter.
That's good.
But yeah, I'm sure that's not at the top of his worry list right now. So y'all be thinking about his mom.
Yeah, because he was going to possibly come to Nobby and and I figured, he said his dad was with his mother, in the hospital while they were still at home and that kind of thing. And that was, it didn't sound good then.
No, she was doing better, but yeah, apparently she's took a turn for the worse now. So, but hopefully he'll pop back in here at some point. But yeah, he's a good young fella. He just lives a couple of hours from me. He's just south of Raleigh, 2.5 hours from here.
Well, you were talking to Jarrett last night, I guess it was, or a couple of nights ago. He lives up around, he did live around 3 Floyd, Virginia area.
Mhm.
You guys were saying you were both from the.
Yeah.
I think you're farther apart than what you're on the state lines, but you're farther apart.
Different parts of the state. Yeah. He's farther east than I am on the state line. I think he was up around. He mentioned Martinsville.
Martinsville.
But
Well,
that's
he
still not that
moved.
far.
He used to be there at starts with, is it not Romney? It's a college town there next to over the mountain across from Floyd. And he I guess he sold that house or he bought a farm. And what he did, he bought about 60 or 80 acres. So he's been into the bees, and he was a police officer there for a while, and he quit that. And then he's a guard for the college there and all that. So I don't know why he quit the police officer business, because down there where he lives, there ain't a whole lot of jobs.
Mhm.
As far as paying. James had a friend passed away last night. Sorry to hear that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm starting to, I've been feeding and that kind of thing, and trying different products this year. I mean, there's a lot of product. I like the Hive Alive. I mean, there's plenty of people who've been using it for years. I just never, got into it. But that was one thing I did learn this year so far is, we had that cold weather, and I don't know, maybe the light bulb finally just come on, I guess, is where I feed a lot with sugar water in the fall and fill them up. And this year with Matt sending me the fondant, and I had to cut the feeding back a little bit because of Apiary that I used early on this year, past year, and which I didn't have quite the amount of sugar water honey in there. But then I got after using Matt's stuff, and I always kept looking at people who use fondant in YouTube, and I'm like, why aren't you using sugar water? And actually, I've come to the conclusion, when you have 5 degrees at night or 22 degrees at night, that bees, that I know they can't move left or right, and they'll lose contact with food. And a friend of mine, he told me this years ago, and I think it was like within so many hours, 24 hours or something like that, losing contact, they will starve to death.
Mhm.
And where if you put the fondant right on top of them, they don't lose contact with food, and they survive those severe cold weather.
Mhm.
Even though they have, let me say, so many frames of food on either side, they can't get to it.
Yeah.
There's the reasoning why you should be using fondant, or that would be your insurance.
Yeah.
Stuff. Hey, Todd, and that kind of stuff. So that's something. After 15 years, you learn a little something new all the time.
What do you think about that question there, guys? From Randy.
I did that years ago. I used to be an all mediums beekeeper, everything up until last year when I had to put deeps in, like for pictures and videos. So when I switched all mine over, all I did was start working my deeps up to the top to eventually turn them into supers. And then one year I was able to extract them and just pull them out and put all my deep boxes through the table saw and turn them into mediums with an extra shim.
Randy, look right behind me there. 3 mediums. Everything I run are all mediums and everything. And I did that years ago because I tried to lift up a deep box full of honey and bees, and it was like 100 pounds. And I'm like, I didn't have an hive lifter at that time. And then about a year or so ago, I had bought some nukes in. They were deep frame. I put them in that deep box. I said, well, let's run some double deeps. I had enough boxes to do that. And And I went in there in the fall of that one year. I think it was last year before. And I could hardly get the 2 boxes separated with a hive lifter on it. And I'm like, I just remember why I don't like deeps, because they are miserable and they're 100 pounds a piece. And yes, you do have an extra set of 10 frames to deal with. But now I use a Demery method where I'm pulling frames from the bottom box and putting them up on top. So those hives, the way I work that is I take that top box off. And if it's got brood up there, I put it all down in the 2 medium boxes in the bottom, put the queen excluder on, put my honey super on, and I put that 3rd box back up on top. But I bring up all the cap brood upstairs. And that's how I work the thing. Everything is interchangeable. You don't have, you can do anything with it. And it works for me. Oh.
I guess like Michael said, Randy, if you got brood in that deep, you're going to have to work it up to the top, and you could probably put it on top of an excluder, get all the brood to hatch, get all the bees out of it, and then just extract what honey you got left and roll. So obviously you're going to need some medium comb drawn out to make it easier on the bees to transition. But
that's what I would do is if you can, let's see, shake all the bees down into the bottom deep, put the queen excluder on, and let's see, how would you do that? I would put all the open brood down in the bottom. I would bring all the cap brood to the top deep. Queen excluder. I would put a honey super on, and then put that deep box up on top. And that'll be like a Demery setup. The bees will come up through the queen excluder, cover the brood up, and then the brood can hatch out. And that's if your honey flow is getting ready to start. I mean, you could just put a queen excluder between 2 and let the top box brood hatch out and get it clean, and then shove all your bees down in the bottom box. Take your queen excluder, of course, off. Then stack 1 or 2. Well, I'll say at least start out with 1. If you got drawn comb on the mediums for brood, put that on there and let her come on up into that medium. Let her lay up. And if you get it to that point, put another medium on there. And then if you find her up there in those 2 medium boxes, set them off. Take that bottom brood box out of there. Put the 2 mediums on. Put the queen excluder back on. And let those deeps hatch out. And then you can pull that box off, and then then when you go into the winter, you put a 3rd medium on, and then save all that comb and sell it. That's what I did. I had 100 and some frames of deep frames, and I sold it to Will that comes on here occasionally, because he was expanding his operation to a couple hundred hives or more. That's how you do it.
Yeah. The only trouble you're going to have with that hatching out brood over the excluder is getting the drones out. The drones will get
put an upper
end on the top side. I saw where some people, I think, I can't remember, it might have been Bruce, Mike Berry, I don't remember. They just offset their boxes a little bit so the drones can get out. Just give them a little crack while that's going on.
As long as the honey flow is on, there's no robbing. Make sure you close all back up.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't want to do that with no honey in about August. Yeah.
No, Tom, it's Psalm 10.
We could have thought of somebody better so many different names that would have been better than just Sawmill 10. I mean, it's like endless here, you know?
Well, they don't know that. They just go by.
Legend, Popcorn Charlie, Orville. I mean, shoot, we could have gone on for days.
No, the only other person that was one of the reasons why I seen where Jerome Bee Farm, he was a ambassador or whatever you want to call it. And I said, well, if he can do it, I can do that. And then I was looking at white papers on the products on their website. Then I found out, I've kind of dug around there and I found out where you could sign up for an affiliate. So I went ahead and put in for it and all that.
He's like, hey, Randy, you know, if you're not in a big hurry to get everything switched over to mediums this year, I'm going to assume you're running like a double deep brood. You could do an in between and just make all your hives into, split them up, make them all single deeps, put a medium and a queen excluder on top, get them to go and build that medium out this year. And then next year, you could take that medium that's going to have some brood in it and put it down on your bottom. Put some empty mediums in between it, queen excluder deep on top, and get them to build all that out and work them out. Or take those 10 deep frames out and turn them into 5 nukes, sell some nukes off to pay for all the medium boxes you're going to need to buy. Or you got lots of options if you don't have to get it all done this year. You know, get it.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah, learning that over a period of time so it lessens your financial burden there.
Yeah, use it to build up mediums and just say, yeah, just take the 2 10 framers, split them off into 2 nukes. Raise some queens, buy some queens, whatever, and sell you some nukes out.
We actually have some equipment from the first year or so that we just painted and weeded and waxed it. And I told Melissa, I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about cycling those, and it's all 8 frame stuff, cycling that out. And I told her, I'm like, I think what I'm going to do is some of that equipment has bees in it now. I'm like, after our initial splits and things like that, and we repopulate some queens and things of that nature, I think I'm going to sell off some full-size colonies in that equipment, which the equipment is still in good shape right now. I just don't want to paint it again. And some of them actually have some specialty paint jobs on them that they first started with that are pretty extravagant. So I'm like, I think I'm just going to turn those out and sell them off as entire colonies like that. So let me ask you guys a question then. So if you guys have all mediums, do you guys keep your brood combs and the super combs separated somehow, or do you just commingle them?
I never did, ever. I know I'm a weird one. I always ran unrestricted brood nest, and I never had to worry about swarming. And the cocoons would make it hard enough, I could spin those things full speed in an extractor and never blow anything out. But I know most people don't want to do that. Yeah, that's the weird thing. But
how do you do it, Keith?
Yeah, I keep mine separate. That's part of when I pull all the supers off at the end of the year. You know, I'll go through all of them and clean up all the frames, and anything that's getting dark, I'll delegate it over to some different boxes to use for a brood this year.
Okay.
So yeah, and I'll keep it in different stacks in the shop when I put my crystals on it to store it over the winter. Which so far I haven't had any wax moth damage in any of the supers that I pulled. So looks like the crystals worked good. But yeah, I keep it separate. And I'll look through just to make sure I didn't miss anything when I'm putting my supers on. I'll look through them right quick to make sure I didn't leave a dark frame in a super.
Yeah.
So,
Keith, are you using plastic foundation or a full plastic frame or wired waxed, or what do you do with yours?
Mine's all plastic. I might have a few with a wax foundation or no foundation where they drew them out, but 99.9% plastic.
Is it a wooden frame with plastic or all plastic?
Yeah, wooden frame with plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, my only plastic frames are I've got some green drone frames. That's my only plastic frames.
Yeah, we had a handful of them that we had that were all plastics for just in the hives, and they work fine. I don't know. And there's not really a problem with them. I just don't care for them. And I had a couple of people give me some, and a couple of vendors give me some of the all plastics. And I honestly, the one thing that I don't like, and it probably is not a big deal, I don't like how when you pick it up, it's got honey in it or whatever, it goes like this. It twists and turns, and I don't know. It just, I'm not really knocking them, but I just don't care for them personally myself. I mean, I don't run all of Michael's regular frames in my boxes because we cycle them out through building nucleus colonies, so that would cost me a lot more. But we've got a bunch of the medium stuff for comb frames, super frames, which are fine because I don't cycle those out, or I haven't had the need to in my short term of beekeeping. And we just got a whole bunch of the drone frames to start putting in those, besides the acorn ones that I already had. So, and my goal with his frames, especially on the drone ones, is when they get to a point where I don't like what I'm seeing, I'm just, because something he talked about, you can power wash them, but him and I were just talking about that today. You can actually heat up water in a turkey fryer and dip the whole frame down there without having to worry about it warping up. Whereas, just some of the other plastic frames, you do that thing's going to twist up like a pretzel,
Yeah.
So that's one of the beauties of being able to clean, like his frames off. I mean, hot water does amazing things when it comes to melting and, cleaning frames up. So that's going to be my goal on those frames particularly.
Yeah. Yeah, the green drone frames, they're pretty flimsy.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want a whole box of that. So,
Yeah.
But I do like running a drone frame. I think now some hives, for whatever reason, the ladies won't do much with it.
Mm-hmm.
But in the hives that they do take advantage of it, I do notice a lot less drone comb between the boxes.
Yeah.
So,
You got them green frames. You got to paint them. I've had them where they're supposed to have been waxed, but I had to paint every one of them.
Yeah.
And I use them. I got pretty much all my hives. I've got 2 medium drone frames.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you run two
When I
medium.
started out beekeeping, I went all plastic frames and everything, and that's all I've ever used. And then I switched over to acorn. And you're right. You them black acorn flames, don't let them sit out in the sun at all, because the wax will melt off of them, or they'll twist or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll even say, even my wooden frames that I use all black foundation so I'm running traditional deep for the brood box, or 2 deeps for the brood box, and then mediums for my extracted honeys, and then shallows are my cut combs, so I can look out across the yard and count out exactly what I have. So I like that method, but again, I'm not running 10 frame like all you guys are, so I'm running 2 less frames, and if that's 2 less honey frames, that can be about 18 pounds ish, give or take, if they're pretty well drawn out. So it's that's 18 pounds less I have to pick up. So I don't mind picking up a deep box. It's not really a problem for me. Maybe in the future it might be, but with the 8 frame stuff, not really an issue for me. So yeah, you got to be careful on those black frames when you set them out in the sun. Whenever it's warm out, if you leave them sit there too long, first of all, the wax will start to drip off of it within a handful of minutes, and then if you're a couple hours, it'll heat up enough that it'll actually warp it. And once it warps it, for me, the frame gets tossed out, because you're going to end up drawing really deep on one side and really shallow on the other side. So now the brood chamber is very inefficient. So that is a downfall. But like you were talking about the acorns in my mediums, that's all I've ever run in there besides the Michael's frames up there. Is I like the wooden frame with the white heavy waxed acorn foundation. Then I can see the nectar colors until the comb gets old, but you can see the nectar colors for quite some time, and it helps to grade things out for us when we're separating things up for us.
Yeah, I keep having people ask me to run frames in black, and I keep telling them, if you're in the South and you get in the sun and it gets hot, it gets drippy so fast.
Yeah.
That's why I use that dark brown. You can still see the graph, but man, it buys you minutes and minutes of time because it doesn't absorb heat so fast. And yeah,
I would say if there was on just the regular foundation pieces, if they produced them in black, white, and brown, I would probably gravitate to the brown ones for my broods and still keep the white ones for my supers.
Yeah. Let's say, Keith.
Yeah.
So drone frames, when it's like peak mating season, I run like 20% drone and everything, and it like makes everything like spotless clean. They don't. That's they hit that 20% ish threshold when they're at peak mating. There's not a speck of drone anywhere else in that entire hive. Then once the dirt kind of comes around, I'll pull one of them out, and I run like 10% the rest of the year. That seems to be like a good compromise. It's like when they get the peak mating, if I don't put the second one in, you'll start seeing some little popcorny cells here and there, and a little piece here and there. But I was telling people, when you're like, I'm going to use medium drones for supers this year for everything supers, just to make it simpler and they hold a lot more. But people making like comb honey, no matter what kind of comb honey frames you use, if you're not using a foundation so they make that size, if you don't run any drone frames in your hives and let them just free draw like my kind of frame, your comb honey is going to be drone cell size because they're trying to fulfill that threshold. So if you're somebody that likes comb honey, but you don't like having the extra wax that you're chewing on, make sure you don't have any drone frames in there when you're doing comb honey. You'll get those really nice, big, wide open cells of comb honey. Or if
That's
you're
what they were
that way,
doing with my.
yeah, if you want those really tight, nice, small cells, make sure you run a couple of drone frames. So when they start free drawing wax, it's that nice, small, even worker size to get that visual, whatever your customer base likes. So you get that visual that you're looking for. So you can control what they make depending on how many drones you do and don't run.
Yeah, that's what they were doing with the frames that I got from you last year when I was putting them in. They were doing it in the drone cell size, which I really didn't mind because I know when you and I talked previous, you said you'll actually get a heavier weight per each one of those if they're doing it in the drone cell size. And I'm like, okay. So I thought we could use it as a marketing technique and saying, hey, these are on a 4x4. It's, start weighing a bunch out and seeing what the differences are and say these are percentage more, of actual honey and less wax. So for people that don't like the chewy nature of it, it may be a better alternative.
Well, run them in 9-frame too, and you get a little fatter one, so you can make them a little heavier that way too.
Well, I'm limited because my cut comb boxes are only so deep, so I can't get beyond a certain. And I can't remember now what it was. I have to go measure them.
Yeah, that's more if you're going to use like wide mouth glass jars to put your comb in. Make them a 9-frame to get the really good fat ones. Really fills out a jar real nice. Yeah. So when you pour honey in it, you use less honey to fill it up too. So the honey's not as deep. Trick. The honey's not as deep, so you can see light through it a little bit better. So it makes your comb, that surface really pop through because you don't have as thick of honey to kind of diffuse the light coming through. So it makes it look a little brighter, a little prettier. And when you turn it sideways, you've got that really nice, thick, open cut profile. It just looks better, I think, that way if you do it. Maybe
we'll try a couple of them like that, maybe on the outside edges or something, and see if they draw them thicker. And we can use those specifically for like 2x4s for the jars and see how that works out. That's a pretty cool little trick. I've never heard anybody talk about that before, but it makes a lot of sense.
Now, Dodd wants to know where you put your drone frames per
what position.
So I put them. You want them 3-frame, the third frame from the edge, wherever you run 1 or 2. So either position 3, 7, or both. That gives them. You're trying to put it on the edge of where the brood nest would naturally be, like kind of where the pollen would start heavier, because you want the bees to have the option of when they want to shut drones down because you're drying up and you don't need them anymore. You want to give them the option of where to shut it off. So if you put them too close to the wall, they're always going to put honey in them. And if you put them too close to the brood nest towards the center, they're never going to cut the brood nest in half. So she's going to be cranking out drones nonstop year round. So if you get 3 from the wall, that's kind of a good happy medium to where the workers can move some honey and backfill them. And then if they want to use them again, they can move honey out. It's just kind of a good working spot. Now, if you're like 8-frame, that's like Tom, we were talking earlier, it's depending on how your bees are, whatever the edge of your brood nest is. So if you're like an 8-framer and your brood's typically like 6, 7 frames wide, I mean, you're going to have to put them on that outer edge, or you're going to have a problem where you're going to chop 2 or 3 frames off your nest and they're never going to use them again.
For me, it'd probably be
You
like
don't-
2 and 7.
Yeah, you don't want to cut them up. So just
Yeah,
kind of
that's
like,
what Robin Underwood said from Penn State. Put him in position 3.
Mhm.
Has to do with they expel a lot of energy to make the drones and stuff like that, feed them and all that kind of thing.
yeah,
And she's talking about in the traditional 10 frame box too.
Right. And she was saying about don't put no more than 2 of them in there. Well, 2 might be too much. Well, she's thinking deep too. Well,
Mhm.
mine's like 2 mediums. I put them on top of each other, and like I said, they'll fill them out with drones, and then as soon as they're done with drones, they'll fill them up with honey.
Mm-hmm. You know, Charlie, working off of that theory, not putting more two of the actual deeps in there, you could probably get by with 3, and it still wouldn't be quite. Let me think about this.
well, it's
Well,
you
3
do
mediums would be the same as 2 deeps. Am I right?
well whatever your brood box is, you want it no more than 20% of your brood. So however many frames you run, you're talking 20% during like max mating is what they naturally do in the wild. And then they'll cut back and they'll naturally run roughly 5 to 10% depending on your bee. I mean, you're not going to have like, you can run a normal medium worker and then let them free draw the bottom if you're trying to get more than 5%. So like if I'm running a deep and a medium brood chamber, I'm running a deep drone and a medium drone. That way I keep my 10%, or I'm running 2 deeps and 2 mediums to keep my 20%. So it's just whatever that percentage is of whatever 8 frame or 10 frame or whatever size you're using.
Mm-hmm.
So if like Charlie's running, 3 mediums for a brood chamber, he's going to run, same position all the way down, third frame over, 1 in every single box to get that 10%.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm running honey season, I'm only running 2 mediums, which gives me a basic single brood chamber, and it keeps that queen. If the queen is young, she'll keep that whole box filled up with brood.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that forces those bees to put all the honey upstairs. And when you get her to do that, or get the rest of the bees to do that, you don't have to bring the outside frames in to get them filled. They will fill it all the way across.
Yeah.
And all that. But that's what I learned here. I had some second year this year. This past year, my queens were 2 years old, and they weren't doing the job when it came to laying up that bottom 2 medium boxes. And that's why I'm going to start requeening every year. I want them.
Sometimes in mine, I'll drop an extra in because I'm doing small cell. So I'm getting like into my deep box, I'm getting like 15,000 more cells. So that 1 frame isn't really 10% compared to the overall numbers of cells. So if it's peak, I might run 2 in my deep, and I might put 2 in the medium, and I might put a 3rd one in just to kind of get me closer to what the real 20% is. It's not exact, but that's kind of where I float. It's just like your normal standard worker size, just call 1 frame 10%. That you'll be in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing but 9 frame drone frame.
Well, small cell. What's the
hey DC, I do that. So I run drone frames, mediums, and supers, and then you just bump them out and space them 9 frames, and you just get fat frames like you would a normal frame. It just makes them easier to uncap.
Yeah, I use
just like anything else. Yeah,
9 frame of honey super.
As long as you run a queen excluder, so she doesn't get up there and lay up 9 frames of drone. That's
what's the advantage of the small cell? I mean, it used to be Varroa and all that kind of stuff. I mean, what do you see? What is the history? I think you told the history behind that. What was it? They went to bigger cells for bigger bees to supposedly make him haul more honey in or something.
Yeah. So Bordeaux in the late 1890s, they were trying to make a bee that had a proboscis long enough to work red clover.
That's right. That's what it was.
And yeah, it's like fish in a fish tank, bigger cell, makes a bigger bee, bigger body. And 5.4 is kind of where you start having problems with things kind of getting droney. So that's kind of where they had to stop. And it didn't work, but they didn't have mites or anything back then here. So it didn't hurt anything, and they already had all the foundation rollers made, so it was just cheaper to keep it. And that's just kind of how it stuck. Because it didn't cause any issues at all. And then you started getting all the mite problems, and then the cell sizes are different compared to drone, and it kind of started getting screwy with stuff.
So I mean, I know you run small cell. Does that do you see a difference in that as far as like fighting, mites and stuff? Or
It's all about your methodology. So if you run hives normally right now, and you just go take some small cell frames and drop in them, it ain't going to make a bit of difference. It's kind of your whole complete setup methodology, the way you do it. So yeah, the way I do it's completely backwards from what most people are taught in beginner classes. So I do it for mites because I'm a treatment-free guy.
yeah,
But so I'm doing it. I'm trying to mimic what their natural setup is. So naturally, you'd have that small bee with a lot bigger drone. So the cell size difference is easier for a mite to be able to find, because mites naturally go for the biggest cell they can find because that gives them the longest time to reproduce and the biggest food source. And between standard, because a lot of companies, drone cells are actually on the small side. I've seen people making drone that's like 6'1", 6'2". That's part of why I make mine a 6'6", to get it really big. And if I combine that with my small cell, the volume of cell size is so different. It helps to shift my mite load more towards my drones. Because with my small cell bees, you have 1 day's less time pre-capping for them to get in there. Then you also have 1 less day cap time for them to reproduce in it. So I end up getting, there's a time to at least have 1 less mite cycle in it. So you still get a mite buildup, but that curve that you see in the summer, it really pushes that curve on down the line well past your honey flow, where it doesn't damage that as much. And I run it with that higher level of drone to try to shift more of those off my workers. And between that and me having like 15,000 plus extra bees, I've got more bees that can take more damage and more viral hit because I've just got pure numbers to shed. So mixing all that combined with doing my own queen rearing, my own genetics, it's kind of one big system. So if you just do one part of it, it's not going to do you
but
a single bit of good. I mean,
but see, right, just what you just talked about, all it isn't just one thing. It's a combination of things that all fit together.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
You're successful with that because of knowing how to put it all together as a working unit.
Yeah, it's like that's why I always I always tell people, if you're a new beginner beekeeper, don't do it. Learn how to keep bees, learn how to make bees. Maybe year 3, start playing with it in some of them. The management that it takes to do it may not be for you, may not have the time. It's not something I would never. I mean, that's why I don't mentor people anymore, because the way I do stuff so differently, I'm just going to screw them up. I'm going to give them a headache. If they've been doing it 5 years, I'll teach them how to do it. But if you're under 5 years, I mean, I'll explain it to you, but I really don't even like getting into too much detail, because you're going to try to do some of it, and then you're going to get busy, and you're going to say, I can skip this part of it, and then you're going to end up killing all your bees. It's just.
But like you were also saying in the past, you've been doing this for 11, 12 years, in order to get the genetics going here, along with all the other stuff.
Oh yeah, you can't buy queens and stuff and bring them in. You've got to be set. You've got to make all your own everything. So
yeah, like I say, it's more. It's just like everything in bees. Bees are complicated things. This is a complicated hobby.
Like the small. So that's why I'm making my drones so big, because even if you don't want to do it that way, I'm still making them a lot bigger than a lot of places you can find them. So when you use them with your normal foundation, you're still going to naturally get some more of your mite load to shift over to the drone, whether you're trying to do that or not. So it just may naturally save you maybe a round of treatments without you actually doing anything different. They'll buy you a little bit more time without you specifically doing it for that. I mean, that's a good reason to do it. And just making things cleaner in your hive. I mean, if you just run a frame of drones, the amount of burr comb and stuff that you cut down on, it just makes your life easier.
Yeah,
Having to tear boxes apart and not having them waxed together and just ripping stuff open.
that's what I have noticed greatly is that I'm running them 2 mediums in there. And it used to be those boxes are completely glued together, frames and everything else. And it would, the first time through the box, I'd have to sit there and scrape and clean the hive out and take me, a half an hour per hive in order to get it to where I can open it up the next time. And then with the green frames, I don't have drone comb where I don't want it. And I don't have, I'm talking about in other worker frames.
Yeah.
And then you don't have all this burr comb where all the drones are too. It just works out much better. And all that.
Yeah. I mean, some people do the pulling them and freezing them and all that. So, I mean, that's an option you can do if you want to take the few extra steps to do it. And
I know one guy that was retired and he had a hive. This guy lives in Pennsylvania and he had a hive at his one location, or several hives, I guess. And he had it. He was on a rotation. Every so many weeks, he would go in there, drop the new drone frames in, pull the other ones out, and freeze them, and then let the chickens or whatever eat the larvae and the drones or the mites. And he had a science background, and he monitored his hives, and he definitely through drone frames, he was able to keep his mites down without really treating, and all by pulling drones out.
And see, I'm the all ball one. I don't do that. I let mine hatch year round, just because, they're making copies of themselves. So if I pull them out and freeze them, I'm killing all the ones that prefer drones and leaving the ones that like workers. So over long term, the way I do it's going to cause a problem because I'm going to make hives full of mites that all prefer workers instead of leaving the ones that prefer drones to make copies to just keep inflicting damage on drones.
Yep.
But if you like to fish, a good thing to do is throw a medium frame in a deep box and let them free draw it and cut that strip off and throw it in the freezer. And you can just stick your hook in there and pull free bait out all day long. I'll do that and give it to people I know, throw it in a Ziploc bag and freeze it. And they're nice, big old fat white targets for your fish. So.
Yeah. I leave my drone frames in there year round. I let them hatch, and I'm trying to get queens hatched and everything else, mated.
Yeah.
So, Michael, if you can't make it go with the 21st bee frames, you going to start up a bait and tackle?
Another product line.
If that doesn't work and I'm living in a cardboard box down by the river, I might as well. At least I can feed myself. I'll have my one hive and people are like, I'll get honey out of it and fish bait. And
that's right.
Live in my oversized bee box. And
that one good colony will feed a man for a lifetime.
You'll come down. You'll see me eating bees for protein. I'll learn to like it.
Yum, yum.
That's good.
So we'll probably look at cutting this thing off about 10:30.
It'd be 9:30 my time.
9:30 your time.
Yeah, this sucks. So I'm in I barely made it to a new time zone. So I'm an hour ahead at home. Then Sunday we're going to jump another hour ahead. So I'm going to be 2 hours ahead of home. Then I'm instantly going to drive backwards and go back an hour. Then I got it. Yeah, it's like I'm going to wake up Sunday morning 2 hours ahead already. Got to get up and get driving.
Jet lag, and you was never in a jet.
Yeah, I feel like I'm jet lagged every day regardless. It's just going to be that much worse. Yeah, DC 7:30.
Yeah, he's 7:30. Got everybody all messed up. Colorado guys would be 8:30.
Mm-hmm. We're nationwide, ain't we?
That's right.
I didn't look. Is Brian? Are they doing a chat tonight or anything?
You know what? I thought they were supposed to.
I don't know. I don't know if I seen that. Brian's up here.
They were last week, I think.
Oh,
yeah, I think so too. Hey, Brian, are you doing a chat this evening?
I'm behind my bee chats. I've been so busy. I can't remember what day it is right now. So.
Next week.
Next week.
Gotcha.
There he is.
So Keith, are you going to be a weekly thing or a every
Yeah.
week thing or?
Yeah, we're planning on doing it weekly Thursdays. You know, I was going to do kind of a survey tonight and see what people thought of the 8:30 start time versus 8 o'clock. I know Ricky had it set that way because he was running around so much before the chat. He just needed time to get stuff done before he chatted.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if folks would rather stick with the 8:30 or if we want to move it to 8 o'clock. We could do a little impromptu survey here if y'all want to in the comments.
Well, hey, you can put a poll on your channel, on your YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
You can put a poll question up, and everybody follows. You can hit it and see it.
My guess is people would probably gravitate, like John just said. He says he likes 8:30. Bee season's starting up, so people means it's going to be a lot longer, particularly starting this weekend. Because our time changes.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, light output's going to be hanging out a little bit longer in the evening, so people probably be working longer, I'm guessing. I know I will be.
We're not too far away from it being light at 9 o'clock in Central Time still.
Mm-hmm. That's the time to get a lot of stuff done.
Yeah, but we are planning on keeping it weekly on Thursday nights. So we'll be here.
You got to get your permanent cast of sidekicks.
Hey, John, I still need to figure out a time that I'm going to head down to your guys' neck of the woods this year. I don't know when that's going to be, but it's definitely not going to be this spring. Go down and visit John Boxed Eagle at the JLA Apiaries.
Seems like everybody likes 8:30.
I hadn't seen the 8 o'clock yet.
Yeah, so when are you guys going to come down to like a Southern show, like Louisiana or Texas or somewhere? Everybody keeps going to Midwest and Northeast to see everybody else. Like, got to come see the Southerners, experience some of that 110 degrees of like 90% humidity summers.
Melissa and I went to when they had the one in Slidell, Louisiana. That was been 3 years ago, Melissa, in September, I think it was.
Oh, you picked a good time of year, though.
We were down there, and that was when, what was his name? His last name was Brown. If Joey was on here, he'd remember. What was her name? Roxanne, and I forget her husband's name, Brown. They did a really good job, but only were able to get it that first year. The second year, they had to cancel it for lack of attendance.
No, I thought it was vendors.
Oh, maybe, yeah, vendors or something. Something happened. I forget now.
Louisiana's was like the same weekend or something.
Yeah, they had done a really good job when we were down there in Slidell.
Oh, Tom, didn't you say you knew the folks that used to work with strong microbials or something? They retired out of that.
Mm-hmm.
That he knew a lot about it, or how?
Yeah, that'd have been Earl Hoffman. Is the guy you're talking about? Yeah, his wife's name is Carol. Wonderful people, always eager to help. He actually kind of fully retired. He was actually a manager on the floor up at Ford, up in I think Michigan, was it, whatever. And he did that for years. And I think he did the stuff with strong microbials as just like I want to say a side gig, or whatever, is kind of a hobby, I guess. And then he fully retired. But he always told me, he said, hey, if you ever need any help with something, give me a call. So I have his number. I was thinking about reaching out to him again and asking him if he would, if him and his wife would come up to St. Louis and talk again. He's a really very, very interesting speaker. Very, very knowledgeable, a lot of energy, talks really, it's got that forceful way of presenting, but really, really good guy to get to know. Very, very, very knowledgeable.
No, I'd like to talk to him. I mean, as far as getting a better background information on and understanding the products and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can read so much about it. I mean, they kind of, I don't know, you sit there and you read the descriptions and it's kind of repetitive, and it's like, all right, I want to know the meat about it. Like, what's it doing? And,
Mm-hmm.
What can I maybe see as any types of results and things of that nature.
Well, he can get all the way down in the weeds with you on that. I promise you. You'll need to break out a thesaurus to understand what he's saying. There's been times before with his energy and how fast he would talk and go, and I'm like, Earl. I'm like, slow down a little bit. I'm like, I'm trying to process this. I'm about 2 steps behind you. And he'd laugh and he'd like, okay, this is what, and he'd go back over the details and things like that. But he'd be a fun guy to, and I don't know, maybe you could get him on a chat. Maybe
Yeah,
he would
that
do
would
it.
be
I don't
nice.
know.
That would be nice.
Yeah, I'll have to reach out to him again, just touch base and see how him and his wife are doing. And
Yeah.
and then I'll ask him if he would be interested in that. And if so,
Yeah, I
he
mean,
doesn't
right now
mind sharing.
I'm sort of like on a quest of, we got the mite thing, and I know how to keep the mites low. It's like, okay, let's work on the viral loads within the gut of the bee, and and whatever, and whether super DFM, I think helps with that. And I know like clay and different ones had problems, and that cured their issues in their hives. And then like the bee bites, I'm going to cut them in half, those pound patties, and put a pound in or half a pound in the brood area once a month and see whether or not they eat it. And maybe it helps them brood up and give them a better, set of vitamins and minerals, and maybe the bees will feel better and maybe work harder. And maybe that'll build up the hive and keep it. I want that. That's my biggest gripe about, and I think part of it's queens for sure, is that I got 18 production hives, and I'm like, I want all 18 to be the same. I want them to be equal and strong, and and that kind of thing, instead of having one over here that's got a queen issue and this one here is not doing just, it's like half the amount of bees that I want, and this one here is just right. It's like I want them all the same.
You might be looking for a needle in a haystack.
No, I think a lot of. I mean, I've been there's a gal coming on our local club meeting, and she's Katie Lee, I think is her name. She's out of Minnesota.
Yeah, was she part of the bee squad?
Somebody just told you.
She might be.
Yeah. I just had a conversation, I think, about that gal the other night, actually.
Let's see. Katie Lee, and she's out of University of Missouri or Minnesota.
Minnesota, it's not Missouri for sure, yeah.
And she's going to talk about her topic name, or it's Long Live the Queen, Factors Affecting the Queen's Health. And I think also how the relationship between the queen and the rest of the hive, as far as a strong hive, a real productive hive, as far as honey producing. And I mean, this is the stuff that I've seen in the last 2 years in my own hives, where I requeened 2 years ago because I had a bunch of bad queens. They were wore out or dead. I was sweating bullets about getting enough honey. Maybe also the weather was cooperating at that time. And I got fresh queens, and I got 1,000 pounds of honey out of those hives. I didn't have 18 honey hives either. And I did my demery. And what I noticed was that she laid everything up in the bottom boxes in the brood chamber, forced the bees to put all the honey upstairs. And I was going, and I'll say that I had probably 8 frames of brood all the time, corner to corner. This past spring, I had maybe 6 frames of brood or less, and it wasn't corner to corner brood. It was in maybe 2 or 3 inches from each end, where they were putting honey and pollen and stuff in there. The brood pattern was relatively solid, but it was shrinking, and the amount of frames were shrinking. And she wasn't laying fast enough to keep the cells full of brood. And I could see right then and there that the queen was failing. And I could see that because of the demery, I think I pushed her hard the first year to lay as much as she possibly could go, and that to me burned her out. And she can't lay as much the second year unless you were doing it normally. And I think that's my biggest problem. So this year I've got some June 2025 queens in there, have not laid anything up as far as the the build up. So I'm hoping that will.
So Charlie, is she coming on your channel or something?
She's coming on my local bee club.
So do you guys have her contact information?
Yeah, I do. I don't have it, but I know my vice president does.
So I'll talk to you after the chat's over, but I'd like to get her information, or if at least
If anything, I'll make a link up. I'll send you a link.
Definitely do that.
She's going to zoom in. You can zoom in.
Okay. Yep. I would do that.
And Brian says here, ask Kaylee about her study where they switched queens and colonies. Okay.
They switched a queen that was doing laying in a good colony with a queen that was laying in a bad colony, and they switched them.
Oh yeah.
That's what the conversation we were having.
Yeah. So we had a conversation. Was it a week, or was it at the conference, Melissa?
I don't remember who it was.
With somebody, I think it was Jim or something. But anyway, he said, I think what Brian is talking about, and Brian, please correct me if I'm wrong here. She did a study where she had a queen that was laying in a quote unquote good colony, was laying a lot, and the colony was booming in strength. And there was a colony next to it that was quite the opposite. And I don't know to what degree, but one that wasn't a strong colony the queen was laying in. Took both of those queens and switched them. The queen that was in the good colony went to the bad colony, and her production numbers dropped. Where the queen that was in the bad colony that went to the good one, her production numbers went up. Brian, does that sound accurate, what I'm describing? I think this conversation. Okay. So I thought that was interesting. Or Brian, actually, was that you and I talking about that? But because I swear I just had this conversation with somebody.
So where's the answer to that? Why?
Well, you know what? You have to ask her, I guess. I'm sure there's theories on it, but.
So Brian, do you know her by talking to her or whatever, I guess, through your schooling or whatever?
She was suggested to me a couple of times, actually, and so that's why I wanted to get her contact.
Those are what she's talking about, like switching around like that, and the queen, in relationship to the hive, being the queen as the engine of the hive. If you get that in your mind, basically without the queen, you don't have nothing, and that's the kind of level of speakers that I'm trying to find for myself to go listen to. And I was surprised that the gal that's our vice president, she works at Johns Hopkins as a scientist, and she found her, and it was a engagement that she had did for another club a couple years ago.
Hey, Brian, if you're free, I might call you tomorrow for a minute and just chew on your ear about something in regards to that. If it's all good.
Yeah, that's it. Now that's some interesting information. And trying to find that level of talk,
Thank you, sir.
So hard to find.
Yeah, that's an interesting study. So the queen performed based on her environment, not necessarily herself.
Yeah. I would like to hear I'm sure there's a thesis or theories behind it, and I'd like to know if they ever come up with a conclusion.
And she worked with Marla Spivak, huh?
Yeah, that goes back to the old thing about the workers controlling the hive, not the queen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting stuff,
But the queen, she's still the queen, and she's still like the engine of the hive in my mind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Clay says it pretty well right down there in the chat. The workers have the foot on the gas.
Yeah. She can be more or less motivated.
People can do the same thing in the wrong or right environments, right?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Just saying.
Well, guys, I'm going to go ahead and shut this thing down. I do want to thank everybody once again for coming out on this first night of the Thursday night Bee Chat. I do appreciate it. I really appreciate all of the super chats. Like I said, I never got those before. That was pretty cool. And
You're in the money.
yeah, buy more bee stuff. So thanks a lot for that. And you gentlemen that came on board, I really appreciate that once I finally figured out how to give you the right link. So
are you
We're
monetized?
dodging you.
oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it all comes together now.
Yeah. So but with that, I'm gonna go ahead and shut it down. You folks have a great week. Hope your bees are doing well. If it's cold, I hope it warms up. So we shall see y'all next week. Take care.
See you
See
now.
y'all.
See ya.